So some of us, I think, have received.
Have received. Okay.
Yes.
Not all.
We didn't discuss it, but one person posted it on the group, and I also
Okay.
received.
Sir,
Okay.
it is
I
live
also
now.
received
Okay.
it, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
now you can start. I'm leaving.
Okay. Thanks, Firoz. Thanks. So let me put the chat on. Has it been shared in the group that we are starting? Has anybody shared in the group that we are starting?
Yes, sir, it's there on the group.
Okay, perfect. So let's start then, and we can take it on as it goes along. In fact, the West Asian diaspora is a very interesting diaspora because West Asia itself is a very interesting place. In the sense that you would not hear people talk about South Asia, people talk about Southeast Asia, but normally people you will not hear too much talk about West Asia. So let's look at what West Asia is, and we look at the West Asian countries such as Iran, Turkey, Israel, Syria, and Lebanon, some historical background, and some factors responsible. But let's start with first introduction of the term. And now West Asia as a term itself is quite, is defined differently by different people. A lot of, people overlap it with the term Middle East or Eastern Mediterranean or Near East. Near East also as a term is also used, not so much, but this is the way the term is used. And a large part of West Asian context is a lot of forced migration. Even though there is voluntary migration, but there's been a lot of forced migration. Remember, West Asia also has, Syria is a very old civilization. Uh, uh, Iraq is one of the oldest civilization besides the Indus, which comes in South Asia. So there's been a lot of tumult in the Middle East and the West Asian context. In fact, your module does, bring in some part of North Africa. I don't know why it came out there, but nevertheless, let's look at it as we go along. These were the two maps that I picked up on when I searched for West Asian countries. So if you see on the right side is the Google map, which contains Iran. Now, this is Iran. Whereas in this map, Iran is not a part of West Asia. Whereas in this Wikipedia map, Iran, this is Iran. Iran is a part of West Asia. So Iran does come as a part of West Asia because it's not in South Asia. It does not come in Europe. So obviously it comes in West Asia. And then there are all these countries out here. Remember, the classical diaspora study started with the Jews and Israel. That's here, this small place. And then there are all these countries around. We in this unit, we are not taking all of the countries. We are taking just some representative countries. So let's go forward and look at it. Let's start with the Jewish diaspora, which is the classical diaspora. The diasporic study started with Jewish diaspora. In fact, a Jewish diaspora existed several centuries. So inevitably, it's the fall of the second temple in the 70 CE, which starts with a lot of migration of the Jews. And remember, we are talking about history where there were multiple empires, competing with each other. And history has also shown us, as I said, human history is the story of migration, right from the origin of modern human being. People have been migrating, moving voluntarily or forced. And Gruen talks about the Jewish diaspora existing several centuries before the fall of the Second Temple. This exile lasted for about 2000 years. And the Jewish diaspora's global lobbying resulted in the establishment of Israel in 48. Before 48, this was the state of Palestine. So world powers after the World War II kind of established the Jewish state of Israel. And that's how the diaspora moved. In fact, this I found this map from 722 BC. So if you see, this is Israel, if you can see, and these are the various kinds of movement. In fact, in this unit, the course writer has somehow taken Egypt and Maghreb, because in talking about the Arab diaspora, the course writer kind of took this, which to my understanding should not come in, because this is a part of Africa. So when we do Africa, especially Northern Africa, we will study about diaspora of Northern Africa. This is how the Jews moved, and this is how they came to this area, the German area, from where the Holocaust happened. So if you see, and this is pretty much, if you pick up any history book about how modern human being started from Africa and moved across, this is the route they took. This is pretty much the route which the modern human being took to reach the world over. So this map is there on Google Images if you search for Jewish diaspora. Also a classic example of diaspora-homeland relationship, even though before the establishment of the state, before Israel was established in 48, the concept of homeland was an imagined identity. And that is why the Jewish diaspora is the idealized notion of, diaspora. In fact, subsequent studies on diaspora has changed. A lot other factors have been taken over. Is now considered when studying diaspora, but Jewish was the classical diaspora and the classic example of the victim diaspora. So corresponding with the Jew diaspora is the Arab diaspora. While Jews are well defined, the Arab diaspora is an amorphous category, 20 Arab countries. In fact, Arab diaspora perceived as a larger, bigger category, that is the Muslim diaspora. Again, it all depends on who is categorizing them. So scholars categorize it differently. So there is the Palestinian, the Syrian, Lebanese. Now this Maghrebi and Egyptian diaspora is typically North African diaspora. Even though, as I said, it's been put as a part of this unit, but technically it should be coming under the North African diaspora. So in the Arab diaspora, Palestinians become a very interesting, entity. And one of the direct byproducts of the establishment of the state of Israel, the Arab Israel. So till 48, it was largely a Palestinian territory. In 48, by the intervention of the world powers, the state of Israel came about, and this forced about 6.5 lakh Palestinians to flee their homeland and seek refuge in the neighboring states. Currently, Palestinians are there in two large chunks of area. One is called the West Bank and the other is called Gaza Strip. Even though the Palestinian state is there in terms of being recognized by quite a few world powers, but at the same time, there is this constant state of conflict. In fact, when you see the news cycle, always there is this thing about Israel and Palestinians in a state of conflict. And in fact, this is how the state of Israel and the West Bank and Gaza comes. So this is the Mediterranean Sea. Gaza is nothing but a strip next to the Mediterranean Sea, and it's a highly densely populated Palestinian enclave. And then there is this West Bank, which also contains the holy city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is both a holy city for the Arab Muslims as well as for the Jews. And if you notice, Israel is surrounded on all sides by Arab states. And that's how the war happened in 48. Now, this is another map that I was able to get. So if you see, this is how the state of Palestine and Israel has subsequently shifted from 46 to 2012. So 5 million Palestinians are classified as refugees by the UN. It's a very interesting place where one set of people have been displaced to accommodate another set of people, where both set of people call this place as their homeland. So if you see, this is how things have changed, and now Palestinians are confined to this small strip of land called this Gaza and a little bit out here on the West Bank. Though we constantly see in the news how Israel is having new settlements in West Bank, leading to conflict.
So can you explain is these small in the 2012 map I'm saying the West Bank is these small portions of green color where you are pointing it out the arrow.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is the West Bank, and in fact, even West Bank, if you see again, there is a state of conflict in this particular area, considering the fact that Israelis and the Jews, believe the fact that this was the promised land and this is there. But historically, this was the place where Palestinians were there. So now, as I said, there are these two communities which both have this particular stretch of land as their homeland. And somehow, this is also historically a very interesting way the human beings work. So a lot of times when people are asked, why do they study history? A lot of students of history talk about the fact that we study history because you do not make the same mistakes by being intelligent out of whatever has happened in the past. But we have seen over a period of time that we have had 2 world wars. We also know that wars do not solve anything. And yet, if you see at any moment of time, the world, there are multiple wars happening. That's the state of human beings. So again, when we study, especially in diaspora and migration studies, which involves a lot of interdisciplinary in terms of history, geography, anthropology, this, that, we have to look at it just as it is rather than what is right or wrong, good or bad. So we are just looking at this, and this is what is happening because Jews are moving to Israel, and obviously it's a very small space. And then Israel, being a bigger power in terms of having the backing of US and a lot of Western powers, is able to put its might against, the Palestinian community. And there is this constant state of conflict which is happening. So that's how things have moved from 46 to 2012. So the Palestinian diaspora, small number of Palestinians migrated to the Gulf as early as 20s. In Kuwait, for example, they played an important role in the field of education. These early migrants were joined by a large number of Palestinians in the 60s. By 90s, the invasion of Kuwait, there has been this. These people migrated to Kuwait. They were there since 20. And when the Iraq invasion of Kuwait happened, these people had to leave Kuwait and move out. So, again, we over the last so many, Saturdays and so many units, we have talked about identities. And we also see the fact that there are multiple identities. So in spite of the fact, so Iraq is not the Arab identity, whereas Palestinian is the Arab identity. So, and they might have a common religion of Islam, and yet how the identities negotiate with each other. So, in spite of the fact they all follow Islam, Iraq attacks Kuwait, and then America comes in aid of Kuwait. There could be various reasons why this was happening, and resultantly the Palestinians had to migrate from Kuwait, had to depart from the region in wake of the Kuwait crisis. Most were repatriated to Jordan. And again, Jordan is next to the Israeli state or the Palestinian state, whichever way you want to look at it. There were Palestinians in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Libya. And these are, if you notice, these are all Arab states. Iraq is not. In the 70s and 80s, a number of Palestinians also migrated to many countries in Europe and North America. So the Palestinian diaspora in 2019 was about 6 million. So there's a huge Palestinian diaspora which is existing, needs a lot of study about. Also, Syria, as I said, was an old civilization. And then there is this Lebanese. In fact, Lebanon as a state itself has been in a state of conflict. You'll be surprised to know in Lebanon, there are multiple types of Christians which were, in conflict with each other. For example, in the Indian state of Kerala, you could come across Catholics, you could come across Protestants, you could come across Syrian Christians. So again, these identities are fractured. Now, Syria and Lebanon also were under French occupation. So there is a French connection which facilitated their migration to Francophone West Africa and Europe. A large number of Syrians and Lebanese migrated to America. March 2011, since March 2011, Syria has been a civil war. So Syria is, is a very, and it's been now almost 12 years. It's 2023, 12 years that it's been in civil war, 5.6 million refugees, 6.2 million displaced people within Syria. Syrians and Lebanese can be regarded as the pioneer Arab diasporic communities, most engaged in trade and commerce. So that's how the Syrian, and if we break this down, the Lebanese diaspora, there are more Lebanese living outside Lebanon than within. The diaspora population consists of Christian, Muslim, Druze and Jews. Druze are also Christians. The Christians trace their origin to several waves of emigration, starting with the exodus that follows the 1860 conflict in the Ottoman. So there was this Ottoman Empire, there was this Byzantine Empire, there were, then there was this Constantinople, and all these, empires and their breaks led to a lot of tumult. So under the current Lebanese nationality laws, diaspora Lebanon do not have automatic rights to return. Same is with Syria. So we'll see, once a person leaves these countries, these nations, they do not have a right to return. Various degrees of assimilation and high degrees of inter-ethnic marriages in Lebanese diaspora, regardless of religious affiliation, cause most diaspora not to have passed a fluency in Arabic to their children. That becomes, so language becomes one identity by which the diaspora, coalesces together. In the absence of language, and if you see, language becomes a part of the culture. And when we talk, we have been talking about various diasporas, and we've been talking about intergenerational diasporas, about how diasporas are able to maintain that continuity by language, religion, passing of various cultural artifacts, and so on and so forth. Although they still maintain a Lebanese ethnic identities. Lebanese food, for example, is now known the world over. The largest diaspora of Lebanese diaspora resides in Brazil, followed by Colombia and Argentina. So obviously these diasporas, and remember the diasporas also work on who is there first. So once a set of people from a particular nation reach another host country, then it tends to pull out other people if the conditions are right. So Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina. So this is how the Lebanese diaspora is, spread out throughout the world. So if you see, Brazil has a large chunk of Lebanese diaspora. North America, Mexico, Europe, Asia, very little in Asia. Most of them concentrated around. Even in fact, Australia is also 300,000 people of Palestinian origin. So that's how the Palestinian diaspora has spread, the Lebanese diaspora has spread around. In fact, I came across this particular Center for Lebanese Diaspora Studies in North Carolina University. It's a whole Center for Lebanese Diaspora Studies, which I thought was very interesting. Dedicated to research about Lebanese immigrants in the US throughout the world and to preserve and sharing that knowledge with the scholarly community. In fact, the internet and new media has given a lot of fill up to diasporas, because now diasporas across space and time can connect together using the internet. So the new media is a boon for diasporas, and passing on or maintaining cultures, for transmitting cultures, to keep abreast of the homeland, to keep abreast of other people across the world. So in fact, if you see, there is a whole thing on journal and news, and this is the way they are able to connect with each other. Let's look at the Syrian diaspora. 2019, the Syrian population was estimated at about 17.6 million, while the diaspora was about 8 to 13 million. And because of this civil war, and now Syria, the northern part of Syria, part of it is with Turkey, with Kurds. And then there are multiple, US and Russian interests, which are, inside Syria. Countries with large Syrian communities are Brazil, Turkey, Lebanon, Germany, Jordan. Again, Syrians do not have an automatic right to return to Syria, and under the controversial 2018 absentee law, the Assad government confiscates property of millions of Syrians. So the minute you leave Syria, your property can be confiscated. So in fact, I was reading a little bit about Syria and the fact that at one point in history, the Syrian ruler and the Egyptian ruler had decided to merge the two countries. And then the Ba'athist party took power in Syria in a military coup, which got the current Assad government. His father came over as the president, and he has continuously held power. So this is a 2018 map. 6.7 million Syrians were in countries after fleeing conflict. There are 3.6 million in Turkey, which because, right, it's the neighbor. Then there are Lebanon, again neighbor, Jordan, again neighbor. Then there is Germany, Sweden, because again, Iraq and Egypt, Egypt is right next door. Austria, Netherlands. So that's how Syrian diaspora is spread throughout the world. Let's look at the Turkish diaspora. Now, Turkey becomes a very interesting country, because part of the Turkey is in Europe and part of the country, Turkey is in Asia. In fact, people have told me who have visited Turkey that the Asian side, it is so marked, the Asian side and the European side. You can immediately know that you're moving from the Asian side to the European side, or the European to the Asian sides. Turks are ethno-linguistic groups people who claim they're ethnically Turks or who have Turkish language as their mother tongue. Second largest ethnic groups in West Asia after Arabs. Turkish people have been dispersed far and wide in Eurasia. That's because they span Europe and Asia or Eurasia. This is how Turkish people are spread throughout the world. So if you see, this is Turkey. That's the largest Turks. But Turks are also a large Turkish population here. There are Turkish populations here, a lesser of Turkish population here. In fact, India also, there are some people of Turkish descent. So that's how Turkish diaspora is spread. 5 million people of Turkish descent. Now, Turkish descent is different because Kurds are also a part of Turkish descent. So we will do about Kurds. In fact, Kurds are one community which do not have a homeland like Palestinians. Palestinians still, there are two enclaves inside Israel which are Palestinian based. Kurdish don't have a homeland, don't have a state in itself. More than 5 billion people, wider European community, large-scale migration began in 60s. And in the 60s and 70s, several Western and Northern European countries in dire need of workers signed labor recruitment agreements with Turkey. So if you remember a long time back, we were doing, Shrestha had shared this about the Malayali nurses who had gone to Germany. Similarly, when European countries were constructing or reconstructing, they had signed agreements with Turkey, and a lot of Turks traveled to Europe. Since 2014, Turks abroad in Europe around the world have also been able to. Since 2014 now, Turks have got a right, have got the right to vote in Turkey. So if you see, again, there's a convergence between host and homelands. In fact, if you see in all countries, there is this, the world is going through this negotiation between globalization and nationalization. So there, in fact, there is a whole movement towards contracting the world as a community. At the same time, there is this movement of having individual nations and this uniqueness of race, of color, of boundaries. So these two negotiations are also happening simultaneously. Turks have got the ability to vote in Turkey. And I believe the current president is very popular among the Turkish diaspora. So I picked up this news item in a New Line magazine, where even after decades, European Turkish diaspora struggles for recognition. So this news item was doing interviews with various Turks who said that in spite of the fact that they have been in Europe, a lot of them have different countries' citizenship, but they do not feel recognized. Integration has been a difficult journey for many. Let's look at the Iranian diaspora. Again, Iran, Islamic Revolution happened in 79. Before Islamic Revolution in 79, there was monarchy. There was the Shah who was ruling Iran. In fact, a lot of times on social media, there are these pictures of universities with very Western environment in Iran. Subsequently, things changed. Until the Iranian Islamic Revolution, only a small number of Iranians migrated to Europe. Labor migrants, particularly to Germany, like Turkey, this labor migrated to Germany. There were also political religious activities who opposed the Shah regime. Most of the post-revolution immigrants were refugees who sought political asylum in Europe. So once the Islamic Revolution happened, things started to become a little difficult in terms of religion, in terms of liberalism, in terms of so many things. In fact, if you remember, just some time back, there was this major disquiet in Iran when one Iranian female was beaten up because she was not wearing the scarf properly. And then there was a lot of, there was a lot of rioting and people were protesting. So a bridge in both geographical and cultural sense of the word. Iran's earlier name was Persia till 34. In 34, the name was changed to Iran as a part of the Reza Shah's modernization effort. Connected the great civilization of Asia, the Near East, and the Mediterranean. So Iran, that is why possibly in a lot of maps, Iran is not a part of, West Asia, but it is this channel between, Asia, civilizations of Asia and the Near East. Indo-European Aryan tribes in the Medes ruled the region from Pakistan to Aegean coast of Turkey until the 4th century BC, when Alexander the Great conquered Persia. Other invaders, Greek, Arabs, Mongols, Turks, followed each other. And Persian has a very distinct culture in terms of philosophy, in terms of artists, in terms of scientific and religious contribution. So if you see, each country and its culture is unique in its own way. In fact, in terms of diaspora, the Parsis Persian came who followed. So in fact, the Parsis in India came from Persia, fled to Western India after Arab conquest in AD 936. In the mid-19th century, shortly after the founding of Baha'ism, refuge sought in the Ottoman Empire, facing persecution. So, again, there are these persecutions, people move, they move and they settle down. Later part of 19th century, earlier 20th century, high-profile Iranian intellectuals were forced to leave the country. This was after the Iranian Revolution, the Islamic Revolution. There was this revolution, constitutional revolution in 905 to 911. Then there were these three significant movements, three waves of emigration. So the first was before the Islamic Revolution, when people who were not, who did not like the Shah regime or the monarchy, they emigrated till 79. In fact, economy was one of the reasons why people emigrated during the Shah's regime, motivating middle and upper class families to say. And if you notice a lot of these things, you will see what happens possibly in India. Why Indian youngsters emigrate out for education, for a better opportunity. So the first wave was before the Islamic Revolution, during the Shah. The second phase after the revolution, when socialist and liberal elements were first to leave, followed by young men who fled military service. And the third wave started roughly around 1995 to present. Distinct population, highly skilled individuals. So inevitably, if somehow the country does not get its citizen to feel a sense of belonging, more often than not, people will leave for a better life. They will leave for a better opportunity. They will leave for a better life. And we've seen this across various countries. Why the diaspora leaves, it could be because of poverty. It could be because of uncertain politics. It could be because of, not agreeing with the regime. People continuously keep on moving. And then, of course, the Kurdish diaspora is totally separate because Kurds do not have a nation of their own. Kurds are a non-Arab Sunni Muslims scattered in Turkey, Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Russia. After World War I and the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, the victorious Western allies made provisions for a Kurdish state. So there was a provision for a Kurdish state in the 1920 Treaty of Sevres. Whereas 3 years later, when the Treaty of Lausanne set the boundaries of modern Turkey, no provision for a Kurdish state. And this left Kurds with a minority status in their respective countries. Over the next 80 years, any move by Kurds to set up an indie state was brutally quashed. So now, this was a community which is spread over multiple states, and all states are, in fact, threatened by this community. So if you remember, maybe you may remember or may not, but when Iraq was ruled by Saddam Hussein, there was a time when there was accusations by the Saddam regime of using chemical weapons against the Kurds. So if you Google it, you will come across this news item. The Kurds were in the northern part of Iraq, and subsequently with the fall of the Saddam regime and all this tumult which happened in Iraq, the Kurds sort of got an enclave for their own. But in each country where Kurds are there, the state does not like Kurds to have independence. Today, numbering about 31 million, the Kurds are the largest nation without a nation state. So this is how the Kurds are spread out. So if you see the northern Iraq, Iran, Syria, part of Syria, there's a large part of Kurds in Turkey. In fact, there was a paramilitary unit which was set up in Turkey, in Syria, to wage a bloody conflict with these independent states. But inevitably, if you would have also noticed, historically, whenever communities pick up arms, then the states use all their might to kind of suppress these communities. So there's a lot of politicking in terms of Kurds and the respective states. So if you see a part of Kurds are there in Armenia too. In fact, talking about Armenia, if you would have been following the news item, there was an independent enclave in Azerbaijan, which consisted majority of Armenians. That has been taken over by Azerbaijan, leaving to 70% of the Armenians out there migrating out into Armenia. So there's a major tumult happening between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So this is the Kurdish inhabited area. 1/2 of the total Kurdish population is located in Turkey, which does not recognize a separate Kurdish ethnic identity. So it's not only that, there is a separate ethnic group, the state does not recognize that identity, culture or language, where the Kurdish Workers' Party, PKK, has been waging a bloody campaign for independence. And inevitably, whenever there is a bloody campaign, it is crushed with a heavy hand. The Kurdish diaspora is estimated about 2 million, concentrated in Europe, particularly Germany, which holds about 8.5 lakh Kurds. A majority of these Kurds originate from Turkey. So inevitably, if there was a survey in Germany which would ask the person, what is his origin, that person would say Turkish, in spite of the fact that they are not Turks, but Kurds. So there is this, I came across this kurdishproject.org, where they talk about people and their stories, history and culture. Again, as I said, today with internet and new media, there's a whole new channel for connections and for maintaining a diaspora identity. And these stories are then circulated around, And then there is peer-to-peer messaging service like WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal, which transmit the stories, and then the story get replicated and disseminated far and wide. Although the presence of Kurdish diaspora is relatively new in the European context, developed as a transnational community enabled and facilitated by global communication that can be used to politically mobilize resources. Diaspora, a politicized diaspora, is the persistent exclusionary and violence of the states against Kurds in Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and nation. Each particular state has come down heavily on this ethnic identity. So the Kurds become a very a different way to look at diaspora, a diaspora without without a homeland or without a nation. It is during the times of crisis and critical event that Kurdish diaspora is materialized through its claim, lobbying, and rallies. So they are lobbying for a Kurdish nation. Can imply assimilation. So in fact, then it becomes the fact that once they are migrating, they take up citizenships of different nations. But even though they become citizens of some other nation, there is this sense of incompleteness, because what do they define as a homeland? Their ambivalence vis-a-vis assimilation becomes tangible. Kurds might be more receptive to assimilation due to their minoritized background. Yet, we'll see there is this book where they say that irrespective of citizenship becomes a very important identity, and citizenship of a nation which is internationally recognized. If you are not a citizen, and that is a very big political identity people want to have. So, for example, irrespective of the fact that Rohingyas are a displaced community, Rohingyas still have an identity of being the citizens of Burma or Myanmar, whereas Kurdish are citizens of none. They are not recognized by Turkey, they are not recognized by Iran or Iraq. So it becomes a kind of a double whammy. Political activism of diaspora attachment to the Kurdish identities due to political oppression is a persistent reminder to continue struggling for recognition of their identities and their rights in the Middle East. So they want their identity, they want their rights, and that's why they are politically lobbying. In fact, there is this Cambridge History of the Kurds. I came across this book. This is just the book cover, and then I've been able to get a soft copy of this book, Narratives of Statelessness and Political Otherness, by Barzu Ilyasi. He's a professor in a university of Sweden. If anybody wants it, I can forward it. I just started reading this book where he talks about the fact that being a citizen becomes a very important political identity. Remember, besides the sexual and the gender, we need to have a political identity. That becomes a very important part of the of the multiple identities human beings have. So I have this PDF of this book. In case you want it, you can write an email. Summing up, West Asia has distinctive distinction of giving the first and the oldest diaspora, the Jewish diaspora, the classical diaspora, and the idealist notion of diaspora. Then there are civil wars, political instabilities of Lebanon, Syria. In fact, Lebanon has just stabilized some time back, but then there was this case of a huge explosion in Lebanon, which killed a lot of Lebanese, led to the fall of government. But Lebanon is much more today at peace than a lot of other Middle East countries. 78-79 Islamic Revolution in Iran has been a major cause for the formation of Iranian diaspora. Size, distribution, other population, the contemporary Jewish diaspora, extremely well researched, but perhaps the same cannot be said of the other West Asian diaspora. And then, of course, there are some references. You will have those larger references in your course booklets. Politics in Israel, the second generation, the Turkic people of world. Then who's migrating where, an overview of migration in the Arab world. And then Robin Cohen, migration in the Middle East, Cambridge University. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay. Hi there. Any questions?
Sir, I have few questions.
Yeah, Jaya, tell me.
The first one, you told that the Palestine diaspora is now displaced from the present, I mean, their original land. Actually, recently, for the past 3 years, there are newses about this accord called Abraham Accord, wherein Israel is having relationship with UAE and other nations. UAE is actually supporting the Palestine diaspora, right? So now, what would be the significance for Palestinians here? Because Israel, they are going to have good relation with UAE through Abraham Accord. So what will happen to the Palestine diaspora there? And their, and their, how to say?
Their cause.
Their cause, yes, the cause of their homeland.
Correct. See, inevitably, one needs to understand that, nations have their own compulsions. And in a lot of nations' compulsion, communities get, left out. A lot of times, for example, when the Syrian civil war happened, typically a lot of Syrians started migrating. The Kurdish area declared themselves independent. Now, Turkey did not want that Kurdish area to get independent, so Turkey sent its forces or allowed ISIS to come in to attack. So, listen, at the end of the day, the way politics plays out is in terms of national interests. So more often than not, Israel and UAE would have some basis in terms of economy, in terms of, predominantly there is an economic basis of interest. Or it could be, for example, if you see how Russia and China are coming together with this Ukraine war, and then North Korea has come in to make a bloc against the West. So these are continuous interests which keep moving about. Unfortunately, again, history has showed that in the interest of nation states, communities do not possibly get a fair justice to it. For example, the case of Kurds. The Kurds actually in the 1920 treaty were supposed to get a state, but didn't, because of other interests which come in. And that is where the communities have to lobby, have to negotiate and figure it out. But I think the Palestinian cause would have a setback, particularly of the place where they are there. Jaya?
Okay, sir, got it. And one more question. You said that there is a difference between the European side of Turkey and the Asian side of Turkey.
Correct.
So what sort of difference? Is it a cultural one, or the geographical one, or the economic development type of one?
I have not been to Turkey, but the fact is, what people have told me is the Asian side. You can see, it is much more. There are more people. It is, you will see more traditional, traditional culture. European side is more, westernized. It is much more developed in terms of infrastructure. So that's what, again, as I said, these are here. I have not been out there, but if you Google search and find out, is there a difference? There will be authors who would have written about it. But I had a friend who traveled from Turkey recently. She was telling me about you can immediately find out that you have crossed from the European side to the Asian side. So it's definitely a difference about culture, and those things. It's something like this. When you in Delhi, if you move from Connaught Place and move into, let's say, East Delhi, you will see there's a difference in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the people, in terms of the languages that are used, in terms of the cuisine, and so on and so forth. Jaya?
Yes, sir. Yes, I have also seen there is a wide difference between Connaught Place and as well as Karol Bagh itself.
Absolutely. So again, the people determine the area and the culture, and somehow the Asian is much more close knitted than the Western European part, and possibly because it also could be that the European part of Istanbul came out later. The Asian part was much more traditional, so there could be multiple reasons. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So I have two more questions. Can I ask?
Please.
So the Zoroastrians, that is the Parsi, I mean the Persians who migrated. The present Indian Parsis, their population is actually decreasing. So even
Correct.
the government has introduced the Geo-Parsi scheme to increase the population.
Correct.
The same in other countries also, or it is unique in India. Because in India, we see all the other religious community, their population is increasing, whereas only the Parsis populations are decreasing.
One of the reasons was the fact that initially itself the Parsi population was very less, and then subsequently also because because of education. See, education always decreases the number of offspring for any community. We have seen that. As soon as the people get more educated, but when we start with a smaller group of people, and inevitably if if the number of so again remember the fact that the children which are produced per family or per female, there is a set number of children which needs to be produced, otherwise the population will start decreasing. So if you see, the populations of Western Europe is decreasing because of the fact that the number of children which are produced out of weddings, or a lot of women choose not to produce children, and then the marriage age increases. So obviously the population, and how is that refreshment of the population happening? There is no refreshment. So obviously the population is decreasing. And, all these Parsis actually came to India to settle. They were not anywhere. They came to India. So obviously there is this smaller stock to take care. And then second thing, the Parsis are very, intrinsic in terms of their marriage. They don't marry outside their community. So that becomes a doubly difficult thing. So in case, for example, if you have not enough men or women to marry, then what do you do? And when the marriage is not happening and the children are not coming in, the population will automatically decrease. Jaya?
Yes, sir. So we can say that the culture of Parsis, for example, if women marries outside of the Parsi, they are not allowed back into the
Correct. They are excommunicated. Absolutely.
So this happens in all the places where Parsis are there, and we can say that their population is declining everywhere.
Correct, but Parsis were all the Parsis actually came to India.
Okay, so we can't see that Parsi population in most of the Western countries.
There are no Parsi population in the. Are there any Parsi population in the Western countries? Parsis are
Iranian or Parsis. What is the major difference? The Iranian diaspora or the Persian?
Persian diaspora. Parsis were the followers of Zoroastrian who came when they were persecuted in the Ottoman Empire. When the Arabs took over, they all came to India. So the stock itself was small. Just do a Google search to see is there a Parsi population outside India? I don't think so. They will be called Parsis.
Okay. So final question. The Kurds, they are actually the ethnic Iranians who migrated to other countries, right? without any, the Kurds.
The Kurds are an ethnic population which are spread across Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey.
Okay, got like trans community. They are like
So
from
it's like today, if I was to look at the Kuki community, the Kuki community is there. Part of it is in Manipur, and part of it Kukis in communities in Burma also. See, remember, communities spread across regions. When communities are forming historically, then it is not typically, the boundaries come later. So
yes,
the Kurdish ethnic communities were, and remember, over history, empires have come in and empires have gone. But the communities, were formed in different ways. And the communities were formed with common culture, common threads. Then they intermarry, they have their, hierarchy. And then somebody comes and draws a boundary. So, for example, today, if you see, when a Britisher sat down with a map and drew the Indo-Pak border, that Britisher did not know that that border was traveling through fields of people in India and Pakistan. And the Punjabi culture west of the border and east of the border is much different, is much similar to possibly the Punjabi to the Haryanvi culture. So the West and East Punjab would have much similar culture than what the East Punjab will have to Haryana. In spite of the fact that East Punjab and Haryana are in the same country.
Okay.
Okay.
Secondary.
Jaya Shrestha has written, in Pakistan, the large part of population, about 70,000 people, in India, and about 1,000 Bakiras. So there is hardly anything in Pakistan. There is an estimated 4,000. So a large part of the Zoroastrian community came and settled down in India. The rest of the people, they are very small set of people in rest of the world. Thank you, Shrestha.
So we can give Kurds as an example of secondary migration.
See, in fact, Kurds would be come as a secondary migration. They don't have a nation, so I don't know how we will put it as a secondary migration. Possibly the Palestinians could be a secondary migration from Kuwait, because they migrated to Kuwait in 20s and then they moved out. So that could be a secondary migration. Whereas Kurds never had a nation itself, so they were constantly moving in a way. Jaya?
Some sort of nomadic type of people.
So, for example, there are Kurds in Turkey, there are Kurds in Syria, Iran, and Iraq. And inevitably, when they moved out of that area because of persecution, then they just went wherever they had to go, in possibly in Germany or in Europe, and stayed put.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Unless we look at the fact that the Syrian Kurd moved to Turkey and then moved to Europe, then it's a secondary migration.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Kangat is writing, during my interaction with Turkish police officer, I found they didn't bother much about the European because they thought they had ruled some parts of possible. Communities also have this larger notions of themselves. So Turkey also, Constantinople was the center of multiple empires. So inevitably, how one perceives their, their larger, say, for example, the concept of the Indian subcontinent, or what the politics of Akhand Bharat is, I'm looking at the larger picture. So, obviously, how the individual community or the individual nation states looks at the larger picture in terms of are like the Romas in Europe who don't have the country of the... Yeah, absolutely. Kangat, you are absolutely right. But Romas are more like gypsies rather than an ethnic community, though Romas also have been persecuted throughout history. Kangat, you are absolutely right. Okay. Any other question?
So, I was just a little curious about the statelessness of Palestinians. Like, I mean, what are the I mean, they may be, they are recognized by certain countries as well.
Correct.
So, what is like the more of the, I would say, a majority experience of the Palestinians living currently within Palestine, as a diaspora or maybe otherwise?
So, there is a large concentration of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. So, if you just go and Google about how big is the Gaza Strip and what is the density of population, you will be surprised to know the kind of density of Palestinians in Gaza Strip. Number one. And how the Palestinians are, their lands are being taken away in the West Bank. Now, more than that, there will be this collective memory of the fact that they were the inhabitants of that area, which is today called Israel, as we had seen the map from 46 to 2012. So remember, today, for example, Indians and Pakistanis, a whole lot of Indians and Pakistanis who were born post-partition, post-independence, somehow still have this sense of hurt on partition and the bloodbath which followed the partition. So there is this, remember the diaspora works also on the memory part of the homeland. So Palestinians, irrespective of the fact that they are, they call themselves a state, but it's still not a state in the true sense, because even the Gaza Strip and the West Bank are two separate, not joined to each other. So there will be always the sense of inadequacy and the fact of hurt. Because somewhere down the line, the Palestinians would feel that the world powers have given them shortchanged them. And then your diaspora experience typically will always reminiscence, have that memory and will work on that memory. So in fact, let me read this book, Statelessness. In fact, I can mail it to you, Shrestha, and next time we can exchange notes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. In that case, have a nice weekend. We will meet next Saturday and we'll start with the African diaspora. We'll start with the North African diaspora and we take it on from there. Okay, then have a nice weekend. Bye-bye then.